Have you ever really stopped to think about the history that's hiding inside your closet? We're about to go on a journey that shows how a few key inventions didn't just change what you wear, they literally reshaped the entire world.
But first, I've got a quick question for you. Think about your own wardrobe right now. Okay, got it? Now, let's rewind the clock a few hundred years. Before machines changed everything, how many complete outfits do you think a regular person actually owned? The answer is probably way, way less than you're imagining.
You see, for most of human history, fabric was incredibly valuable. Every single thread was spun by hand, every inch of cloth was woven on a simple loom, and every single garment was sewn with a needle and thread. It was the slow, difficult process that made clothing a huge investment.
And there's a perfect word that captures this reality: homespun. It means exactly what it sounds like. Most people had to literally spin their own yarn, weave their own fabric, and then sew their own clothes, all in their spare time. Because professionally made cloth was so expensive, having nice, finely woven fabrics was a luxury that, for almost everyone, was just completely out of reach.
And then, everything changed. A massive wave of new inventions swept across the globe, and boom, the Industrial Revolution kicks off. This is where our story really starts to pick up speed.
Just look at this timeline. It was one innovation right after another. In 1794, you've got Eli Whitney's cotton gin, which made cleaning raw cotton unbelievably efficient. Just a decade later, Joseph Jacquard loom could automate really complex patterns. By 1851, Isaac Singer's sewing machine was bringing mechanization into the home. And then in 1856, Sir William Perkin accidentally invents synthetic dye, which just opened up this whole new, vibrant world of color. Each one of these didn't just improve a single step, it completely changed the game.
And this old knitting machine right here is the perfect example of that shift. You can literally see the move away from simple hand tools toward these complex machines that were designed to do the work of several people, but way faster and more consistently. But the Jacquard loom, now that was a whole different kind of leap forward. It wasn't just about weaving faster, it was about weaving smarter. See, it used a string of cards with holes punched in them to automatically create these incredibly detailed patterns. Sound a little familiar? It should. This was basically an early form of computer programming using punch cards to tell a machine what to do.
So what was the end result of all this innovation? A total transformation of how we get our clothes. It gave us mass production, it gave us standardized sizes, and for the very first time it gave us ready-to-wear clothing, stuff you could just walk into a store and buy off the rack. This is literally the birth of the fashion industry as we know it today.
But this revolution, it had two very different faces. It was like two sides of the same coin. For every brand new factory shooting up in England, a centuries-old tradition was dying somewhere else. And to see this incredible contrast, we just need to look at the relationship between industrial England and colonial India.
Just look at this comparison. On one hand, you have England. Towns like Manchester just exploded, becoming the world center for cotton manufacturing. All that mechanization drove prices way down, and England ended up dominating the global textile market. But in India, the story was the complete opposite. India went from being the planet's #1 exporter of beautiful, high-quality textiles to being the biggest importer of cheap, machine-made English cloth. And this wasn't just some abstract economic shift on a chart. It had a devastating human cost. Skilled weavers in places like Surat and Murshidabad, whose families had perfected their craft for generations, were just crushed. They simply couldn't compete with this flood of cheap industrial textiles, especially when they were also being hit with heavy colonial taxes on their own products.
The truly tragic part of all this is that it wasn't just an economic loss. It was a cultural one. Because when these master weavers went out of business, their knowledge just disappeared with them. Some incredibly intricate, beautiful handmade weaving techniques were lost. Forever. They became extinct.
So, okay, this all happened a couple of centuries ago. Why should we still care? Well, because its legacy is literally woven into the fabric of our lives, and even into the words we speak every single day. Take a look at these common English words: chintz, muslin, calico, shawl, khaki, pajama. What do they all have in common? Every single one of them comes directly from India's textile heritage. They're like a linguistic echo of a time when Indian fabrics were famous all across the globe.
Let's just take one example. The word chintz, right? We use it to describe that floral fabric. Well, it comes from the Hindi word cheent, and cheent means a spray of raindrops, which is just this beautiful, poetic way to describe the small, scattered patterns on the original Indian prints that Europeans fell in love with.
So the next time you get dressed, maybe just take a second to remember this. The clothes on your back are so much more than just fabric. Their history is a really complex tapestry, and it's woven together with threads of incredible human innovation, global ambition, and economic changes that are still shaping our world today.
So let me leave you with a final thought. That first industrial revolution, it gave us fast fashion. Now, as we're standing on the edge of all these new technological and social shifts, you've got to wonder, what will the next revolution in clothing look like?